The Kindle is probably the best known ebook reader or e-reader, whatever the term that people use for them is. But it's something where I myself held out on getting one for a long time, and I had what I thought were reasons not to get one and reasons as to why it wouldn't be that good, which I hear repeated again and again by pretty much everyone I know who's intelligent and who's the sort of person who actually I would recommend it to, and I would say, mate, you will love this, like, just here's the reasons why. And so what it's actually made me come to the realization of is that for whatever reason they've done quite a poor job of marketing the Kindle, or even kind of creating a desire within people as to why they would want it. Like, it's one of those products where the things that they market about it are kind of the periphery, like less important secondary and tertiary things about it, and they really should just simplify and hit on the key points, which is what I'm going to do in this video, and outline the reasons why I think it's a fantastic product. Because I actually legitimately think now, when I think like dollar for how much it costs and how much I use it and how much use I'm getting out of it and how much I'm enjoying it and how much I'm going to use it in the future, it's one of the best purchases I've ever made of any product. I mean, I certainly would not want to go back to a world where I didn't have it. Like, this would not be a life worth living in some sense. It would, obviously, but it would limit me in the same way as not being able to have an MP3 player or not being able to have internet access on my phone would limit me in ways that, you know, my horizons are opened when I'm in my horizons. I don't know why I said horizons, obviously Freudian slip about the phone thing. My horizons obviously are opened by having access to these tools and this technology in my life. So when I talk about the reasons to use them, so the first and probably the best reason as to why a Kindle is a fantastic device is, most of these reasons, by the way, go back to the piece of rhetoric that people always say, that I myself used to say, which is, I like real books. I prefer to hold real books. I prefer to read real books. And this is the main thing that's going to stop people buying Kindles. So here's the thing I would say, first and foremost, it's incredibly easy on the eyes to read. It does not feel like reading a screen. It's not like reading your phone or reading a computer screen, because when you do those things, I mean, I know some phones nowadays have that like light technology that can change down, but those activate your brain in a different way, and they cause a different kind of eye strain that you don't get from just looking at a book. A Kindle is closer to the book in that particular sense. You don't feel eye strain, even when you're very tired, or even when you're on a train, or you're traveling, or you're under stress. You don't feel that same strain that you get from screens. So as a result, it's very easy to read, just in terms of how your eyes take in the information. It also won't keep you up in the same way. That's one of the problems that people had with phones before that technology, and people have with computers, is that if you just sat there on your couch reading a book, a real book, you would get tired. I mean, famous is what people do when they're going to sleep to figure out when they feel fully tired, and then they go to sleep. If you are on a computer screen or you are reading your phone, the light that comes from it, I think it's blue light or something, activates your brain and stimulates it and keeps you awake longer. It doesn't let it shut down slowly like you want to when you're going to go to sleep. That won't happen from a Kindle. And so the idea that you prefer real books, that's not a reason to avoid it in terms of you prefer to read real books. Actually, there's not much difference in that sense. Another key detail, the reason also why I prefer real books is because if my only other experience is reading a phone where I have to hold it and scroll, or reading on a computer where I have to sit there in an upright position scrolling down, then yeah, even the experience of reading it is not enjoyable. Because one thing people don't talk about is when you read, you don't tend to just sit there in a straight line reading a book. What you tend to do is you relax and you lean back, and every now and then you unconsciously sometimes even shift a little bit to be more comfortable, or as you're reading a section and you've rested on this arm for too long, you shift to the other arm, or you lean on your front. People like the book to be something that you can move around very easily, that you can manipulate it to put it into an area in your environment where you're still taking in the information, but you've shifted your position. Well, the Kindle is very light. It's actually lighter than most books, and it's very small as well. So as a result, it's about the size of the page you'd be reading, but it's not super heavy. It's not heavier than most books, actually. Like a Game of Thrones book, Song of Ice and Fire, is heavier than the Kindle. So as a result, you can do all of these things. You can lean one way, you can sit another way, you can move another way, and you will do it the same way as when you're reading a book. So in that sense, it has a really big bonus there. Which, by the way, I think is also something I discovered as to why people do read on their phones. Because when you're on your phone, even at least with your phone, you can move it more than with a computer screen. And therefore, people read articles more on their phones, and on the train, on the bus, in the car, etc. Because it has more benefits over a static computer screen that's just there and you have to sit there and read. So in terms of a real book being better in that way, this is another way that it's counted it. There's also the aspect, and this is probably the biggest killer to the idea of like, well, I'd rather read a real book, is this if you have the real book, well, when you're in a scenario like I am where you travel, this is one of the main reasons that spurred me to get it and why I'm so glad I got it, is I would love to read the real book, and I own the real book of most of the books I want to read in my life. The problem is I have to be able to take that book with me. So if I go somewhere and I take 10 books, that's going to be quite heavy in the bag. It's going to be quite annoying to travel with. The pages are going to get fucked up inside the bag. This way, I have all those books inside this one thing, inside the Kindle. So in that sense of like, you want to read a real book, sure, but one book only contains one book. Your Kindle could contain 1,000 books. That's why I'm surprised the way they didn't go with it in terms of selling it was the iPod angle. Because remember, one of the key things with the iPod, there were MP3 players before the iPod, but they didn't take off as much as the iPod, because the way Steve Jobs and Apple figured out to sell it was not on the notion of, look, it's a machine that plays music like on your computer and you can carry the music with you. No, what they said was, this was the line, remember, they said something like, it's like 10,000 songs in your pocket. So now the idea is, right, well, I understand the concept that I'd like to listen to music on the go, and I understand the concept that I'd like to listen to music like I do on my Walkman, on my cassette player, or my CD player, but wait a minute, I can't get 10,000 songs on there. So if I have 10,000 songs in my pocket, now you can see the benefit. That's what the Kindle's like. You could have 1,000 books in your pocket wherever you're going, wherever you're traveling to, or wherever you are at home, if you don't have those books with you at the time. This is a massive boom, because you can have them, hundreds or thousands of books wherever you're going as well. You can have them always with you, so anytime you can go to them. You can also, remember, get both. You can have the book at home and you can get the book on the Kindle. Therefore, you don't have to make the tough choice of what books do I leave at home. You can have all your books with you, and then you can be reading them when you're on the road. And as a result, for travelers, I do think it's a must-buy. There's also the aspect that it saves your place in the book. So you can essentially have the equivalent of a bookmark, but in every book you're reading, and you know what percentage of the book you're through. So I mean, actually, it's not something I particularly take joy in, but for some people, if they think it's a big deal to read a book, they might have more of a sense of accomplishment if they see I'm up to 38% as opposed to just the page number. One of the key things I think is, just as an aside, I'm not going to go into this obviously because I'm not going to promote or aid people in pirating, but I will just say, if you know what you're doing and where to look, you don't have to buy all the books. A lot of books are out there, and if you knew how to search for these things, you'll be able to find them. Also, if you can just find the book in Mobi format, this is the native format for Kindle, and the text is bigger and it's very uniform. It's a lot easier to read than PDF, for example. So there's also the aspect that one of the ways they sell the Kindle now is the same way they're selling all multimedia devices, which I think is whack as fuck, which is the same way they sell MP3 players now. They try to promote the fact that it plays video, because that's the new thing. So you can get the Kindle Fire or whatever that I think plays video as well. I don't know about you, but if I want to play video, I'll use a laptop, I'll use my phone. I don't know why I would use these devices, so ignore that. The great thing about the Kindle is you can just get the ones that read books. So get like the Paperwhite. It's like $75 to $125 for like a basic Kindle that just reads the books. That's all you need it for, is just to read text. You don't need images, you don't need video, etc. Well, at least I don't, personally. That's not what I was getting from books as it is. So finally, probably the best reason, once you have the Kindle, the thing that you really realize and appreciate about it is, because you can have the 1,000 books in your pocket, you can have all different types of books. Now your choice when you're out and about of what to read is insane, because now you can have your classics on there. You can have new books that you've just heard about. You can have exotic books that you've thought about reading once, but they only come to you every once in a while. You can also get in a scenario that if a book seizes you and you want it, but it'll just lie at home somewhere, you get it on your Kindle, it's there, and you have it wherever you're going. You're never going to forget about it. And as a result, a key thing for someone like me is the reason why I have a large book collection at home is sometimes I'll have that feeling where I bought a book because I know I want to read it at some point, but I don't want to read it now. And then a day will come, perhaps because of something I saw in a documentary, or another book I read, or just an idea I had, or something will just come up, a moment of inspiration that'll say, I want to read this book now. Now, in the scenario I'm in where I'm traveling, for example, I can't do that. I literally can't access that book. There's almost no chance I would have bought that with me. Likewise, if it's a book I've already read, I might want to read it again, but unless I'm at home, I can't go and I can't get the book. So this takes care of all that. So ultimately, I mean, obviously I'm not sponsored by Amazon, and in no way do I earn anything from people buying Kindles, but I found it's a game changer. This is another piece of technology that really enhances your life. I think it's one of the best I've found. And so I think they've just done a bad job of marketing like the really good features of it. And so this is basically kind of the rap that I've given to some of my friends who I know like to read and travel. And I told them, listen mate, if you get it for these reasons, it's very unlikely you're going to not like it. I mean, for a start off, you can get it for like $80, $100, and it's going to have all those books on it.